Imagine watching your favorite football team on TV, right? You know, you've got premier athletes slipping and sliding as they try to get the ball. The midfielder running across, giving you a powerful cross where you've got strikers jostling for position. Then someone tugs a shirt. Right? Penalty. Striker lines up the shot. Looking left, looking right. Takes a shot. Top right corner. Goal! Now imagine watching the same match without the commentator and you can't hear all this. Not so interesting, right? So guys, welcome to Find the Real podcast, where I believe everyone has a story. Doesn't matter what you do for a living, what your career is. I believe everyone has an interesting story, and my role are to find those interesting stories for your entertainment pleasure, and hopefully you get inspired and the stories better your life a little bit lah. And speaking of bettering my life, we've got someone who actually bettered my life a lot. We've got my buddy Ben Ibrahim here on the show. So Ben, what's up? How are you, man?
I'm great, man. Well done on this podcast. I've seen some of the episodes. It's really great content. Love the shirt. And I love the charisma and animation.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. In case you guys don't know, if you watched the early episodes, you know I spent 15 years in this little company called British American Tobacco. And this is the guy that hired me, lah, Joe. So this guy has an eye for talent, if I do say so myself.
100%.
All right, so we've got Ben, who is currently a CEO of his own company. He creates content. He's also a little bit known as a sports media personality. He's also known to be an educator as well. And today we'll be talking a little bit about mental health education and coaching. Yeah, we'll go through that as well. We'll be discussing about his journey, not just in sports media and everything else as I mentioned as well. And we'll talk about his life a little bit or so lah. So Ben, why don't you give us a little brief rundown on your background, how you grew up, where you grew up, and things like that.
Yeah, I won't keep it too boring, Amil, and thank you so much for having me on the show, bro, and great to see you. I mean,
yeah, man.
You know, during the pandemic, we all didn't see each other, and that's part of the story a little bit later, and I think a lot of people have connected to that. But basically, I don't want to bore everybody with the details, but born in Sabah, grew up for the first 7 years in Sabah, then my dad got a good job in KL, and he moved the whole family over, and because of that big job that he had, which was a company called Malaysian Mining Corporation, which he ran, they had a lot of investments in the gold company, mining company, so they had a lot of investment in Australia. So Alhamdulillah, I had some education rizki in Australia, went to school there for 6 years, and then university and also high school. So, and then after that I finished that, did some few odd jobs, but it's really funny, things happen for a reason. Around that time I was trying to stay in Australia, look for a job, but September 11th happened.
Yikes.
So yeah, I don't think it was cool to be Muslim, if you know what I mean, back then. So I moved over back to Asia, and then I started a career because I studied my degree was in human resource management, but I wanted to study sports science and Spanish because I wanted to work in South America and in football in particular.
¿Cómo está? You speak a little Spanish?
Lo siento. So yeah. So that means I'm sorry. So I know how to tell someone, a female, that they're pretty. That is guapa señorita.
Guapa señorita, no?
So that gets you further in places. But yeah, as many debates as I had with my parents, who my dad's an accountant, my mom's an economist. It's two strong personalities who lived a tough life, so they didn't want their children to struggle. They had this Asian mindset that someone who studies sports science or probably a language will probably end up teaching it. You don't make good money from that. They wanted me to be like them, to be a corporates. Anyway, I lost the battle with my parents. I came back. I worked in HR, which was not my cup of tea, but I'm a firm believer in giving something a go, finishing what you started. And if I didn't work in HR, I would have never met you, and we wouldn't have this conversation. So I worked in recruitment and training with British American Tobacco, my first real job in my first professional life. But along the way, I was about to pack my bags back to Australia to study a grad dip in European languages and also sports science. But as I was packing my bags, I was about to jump on the plane. I was ready to book my ticket and everything. And if I'm being very honest, I ended a 3.5 year relationship with someone because I wanted to. She wasn't so supportive of that career. So I said, okay, that's great. All the signs are on the wall. So so I was about to pack my bags, and then Astro called me and said, "Would you like to audition for a few sports and business shows because someone thought you have the substance to do it?" I told this person, I don't have the I may have the substance because I read a lot and stuff like that.
That experience,
but I don't have I didn't study mass comm. I didn't study any of those things, and I thought all my mass comm friends would be much better at it than me. I was trying to look for a part-time writing job. I was trying to get into writing. I wrote to the Malay Mail. I wrote to a few people, and they didn't take me because my CV said masters in HR. So they were the mindset. Okay, this guy is a corporate guy, not a
creative guy per se.
Yeah, creative journalism guy per se. So, and then I said, oh, okay. I said, never mind, you can learn that. So then I went to the auditions. There was a series of auditions. It was about 5 or 6 auditions. Really, it was testing. I was saying, what do these people want? So, and then, they offered it to me, and I worked with the late Shebby Singh, Raymond Go. Absolute Football was my
Legends,
first TV. Yeah, great guy. Was my first TV show. Covering Italian football. And from there, I went to the breakfast show. And then I did a show called Entrepreneur with Astro, which led me to my big gig. Well, Astro One was a big gig. That was a big show too, interviewing entrepreneurs. I love that show. That led to my big regional gig in Fox, when I worked in Singapore for about 4 years. And that was a great job. Because I said to myself when I accidentally got into television, that I said to myself, my goal is to reach CNN and Fox, or ESPN at that time. But my goal was more ESPN because it was in Singapore. I grew up with that tenenet tune.
I remember,
so,
dude.
Yeah, so I wanted to, and I love sport. I grew up in Australia. So I'm qualified to coach 4 different sports.
How do you get those what sports were there, and how did you get the qualification?
Football, basketball, rugby, and rowing. So because I went to the school that I went to is a very sporting school. I got my licenses, level 1, level 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Australia's very good at that. Australia's very good at coach education. That's why some of the best coaches around the world are Australian. So they harness their skills in Australia. So anyway, that aside, worked in TV, and then I worked for Media Prima. I worked for Astro. I even worked for RTM. But then when I hit Fox, everything was great. But I was in Singapore, and I knew the company was closing down because as I was during my last few years there, from 14 to 17, the internet revolution, as I call it, was just getting too strong. Even though there was no TikTok back then, Instagram was new, Facebook was sort of becoming an uncle brand, and it was just. The social media machine was putting TV people out of work. So I knew that would happen. So my other passion was sport. And because I never studied sports science and Spanish, because I used my credentials of able to coach 4 sports to flex and try to get a job. And in 2017, I was very lucky that the Khairi Jamaluddin Ministry of Youth and Sports, him and his team offered me the job at the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the National Sports Council to be the high performance manager there. Now, what that exactly means is that I don't work with the Lee Chong Weis or the Nicole Davids of this world. I implemented systems and structures that would create the next Lee Chong Wei and Nicole Davids in terms of palapes and pathways. So I worked on 4 different things, which was coach education, performance lifestyle, which was athlete career development, off the track, a thing called winning mentality, which is about mental health and giving the athletes a winning mentality, belief that they could win regardless of who they're up against. And I also set up the Podium program, which was a program that was supposed to give us our first Olympic gold medal in 2020. So that was my job there. And then from there, because I was the high performance manager there, from there I used to work for Fox. That got me a lot of jobs overseas and within Malaysia as well. Okay,
so what kind of job? So I think what I like here was, here you are, doing HR, going through that HR journey, finding out that this is just not my calling, right? And serendipitous, suddenly, hey man, you got this call from Astro, right? You spent a large part of your life doing broadcast, focusing in sports, driven by...
And business as well.
Yeah, business, the entrepreneurship, I remember that.
Awesome show.
But the fact that sports is your passion, so you continued that venture. What was the big difference working with a regional player like Fox versus local players?
I suppose Astro? the regional players like Fox, they had a bit more financial muscle, so they could get better equipment, and adhere to more standards that were going on in Europe. But take nothing away. I want to say this: take nothing away from a Malaysian creative talent behind the scenes. Our Malaysian producers and directors are very good. Okay, it's just sometimes if they work for a company that is very heavily, their processes are blocked by political agendas, then that becomes a bit difficult. And I'm not saying anything insensitive. It's just what it is.
That's the reality.
Media Prima is owned by the government. RTM is owned by the government. So what do? Ikut arahan boss, which means follow the boss. That's the culture. And same at KBS, at Ministry of Youth and Sport. The government servants of the day, they will follow the calling or the agenda of the politician of the day. So it's not their fault. They want to be creative. They want to be innovative and all of the
Their
above.
hands are tied,
But their hands are tied because of government processes. So people used to say to me, "Oh, the government should do this. They should be more like the private sector." I said, "Go in and do it. Go in and do it and
Try.
work for the government for a week. I bet you want to quit after a week."
How long were you at KBS though?
3 years.
Oh, 3 years? No way. So here you are going from a little bit of a corporate life in BAT, a little bit of a broadcast life with where you were with Astro, RTM, Media Prima, as well as Fox, right? And transitioning straight into KBS. In those 3 years, you mentioned the 4 things that you were trying to focus on.
Yeah.
Like, if you could just give me a little bit of rundown of, how do you think you've impacted the high performance culture whilst you're in KBS?
Well, you walk into ISN, which is Institute Suka Negara, which is the sports science. There's 3 agencies of KBS.
Okay.
Which is the Sports Commissioner's Office, which
Alright.
does all the laws and the governance. There's MSN, Majlis Suka Negara, Indonesia National Sports Council of Malaysia. They give all the athletes scholarships and everything like that. And basically their right to compete. And then obviously ISN, Institute Suka Negara, which is the sports science and sports medicine aspect of the athletes, which is their massage, their physiotherapy, their recovery, their sports medicine. Now, if you walk into ISN's main room there's a hashtag there called winning mentality. That was me. Okay, I created that. I mean, I'm going to be very honest. I didn't create that concept. Karya Jamaluddin did. I executed the concept, but I executed it from A to T and from A to Z and back. So KJ, Chief as we call him, great minister, great guy, was this very very results oriented guy. He set that up, and I just ran. I operationalized it. Okay, and then so the winning the posters around. Which is Bukit Jalil. There's a poster that says, "This is our house," which we created for the 2017 SEA Games. So when the Thais and the Brunei and the Singaporean and the Indonesian athletes walked in, they'd be intimidated. Winning mentality. This is our house. This is Malaysia, and you're not going to beat us in our house. So like that was my impact, and it was tangible. If you walk into the Nilai cycling velodrome, where Azizul Hasni Awang trained, there's a winning mentality poster with all the athletes at the back. That's my poster that I created. So anybody wants to say that my legacy didn't live on, it does. And that legacy lives on because of all the work that I did with MSN. I worked with FAM twice, and FAM, it's not easy to get into. Okay, I worked with Malaysian hockey. I was the mental toughness coach for the Olympic hockey team in 2019 and 2020. I was just recently. I was recruited as the mental toughness coach for the women's SEA Games football team in Cambodia. So I mean, I left. Again, forgive me if I'm sounding arrogant or prasan as we say in Malaysia, but it's not. I left an impact, and that impact still lives on because when that phone rings and people call me, I say, well, this is what I did, exactly what you asked.
Yeah, perfect, dude. I think you see that. I mean, you're so passionate about what you've done, and I like that. You can see it, and you've really made a difference in that sense. You brought up something really interesting. You were talking about mental health coaching, right? Let's go a little bit into that as well.
No problem.
From what I understand, you yourself, you've gone through a few episodes in your life where you've dealt with some difficult situations, right? That impacted you on a mental perspective. If you don't mind,
No, I'm very open. I'm a mental health advocate
Yeah.
for a few places, and I tell this story all the time.
Okay.
Once upon a time, I told it with tears in my eyes and trepidation, but today I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it because I went through it, and nobody has ever gone through what they went through. And just funny that you asked that question. I met this very unpleasant character. He was an expatriate character from Europe, and I won't say what nationality he is. I don't want to be branded as a racist because but he said he used to tell people you need to have a PhD in psychology to talk to people and say and counsel people, which I thought was utter bullshit. Excuse my language. I said people are struggling or have struggled, and in the pandemic people did struggle. A pair of ears doesn't hurt. You don't need to have a pair of ears with a PhD behind them. You just need a pair of ears. Okay, so I just want to put it out there for that, and I just really, really feel very strongly about that. So basically, to answer your initial question, is that, and I'll get to that story about helping people, giving them some ears in a minute. And I mean, that's why that guy who said what he said, oh God, I could have strangled him, but I didn't. But basically, to sum it all up, when I was 15 in Form 5, 1995, something about the number 5. Okay, in 1995, I broke my leg skiing in a ski trip in Canada. I know that sounds very atas and very rich, whatever. But
But
no,
weren't you in Australia at this time though?
I was, but my father
Was travelling.
No, we were traveling as a family.
Oh, okay,
And
it's a
my
holiday.
dad worked very hard to take us overseas on
nice,
one
nice.
very nice overseas trip every year. And it sort of made up for the time we didn't see him because he was very busy. My dad was the CEO of Malaysian Mining Corporation, by the way. So like so we never saw him much. So but that time we saw him. Unfortunately, we went to Canada, which is a beautiful place, a friendly place, and that was our second time there. And I know how to ski, not well, but I'm just a beginner. But anyway, that day was very slushy snow.
Okay.
I skied. I broke my femur. Okay, so and I broke my leg, and I returned after that. After breaking my leg, I had a nasty summer holiday, and then because I was on crutches, I couldn't walk. But when I went back to school, I was on crutches, and the leg healed like this. It didn't heal straight. So
Yikes.
So basically, they had to re-break it and reconstruct it. Put 4 pins and a needle. I'm sorry, a long needle to support the femur. So for a good part of 1995 and a good part of 1996, which is my year 11 and 12 or more, my form 5 or my form 6 as they would say in Malaysia, I couldn't walk. I was on a brace. I don't know if you remember the movie Forrest Gump.
Yeah, you on Forrest Gump's brace.
Yeah, not 2 legs, just one.
Okay.
So I couldn't walk. People were calling me Forrest Gump and teasing me. I said, okay, no worries, I'll take that.
Yikes.
So, but what broke my heart was that I couldn't play
sports.
sport. So but it's funny that happened. That's why I went into coaching. That's why I can coach 4 different sports. So I went into coaching very, very early, and became a pretty good coach. Because I say that not because Prasan or whatever. I won stuff. I won championships as a coach. And probably if TV didn't come about, I'll probably be a football coach.
So at that point in your life, you were coaching your peers, or were you coaching lower?
I was coaching for clubs and schools.
Okay.
While doing university. So my HR qualification that I was studying, I dragged my feet to those classes, but I ran very quickly on my bicycle, quickly down to the boat shed or down to the football parks and
To coach.
And that was the best times of my life. If people always ask me, what was the best of your times at university? People would say go clubbing, going to the beach and meeting pretty girls and all that, and that's all great. But I just, that was my best times, my best times and my most fun times. And I when I'm depressed and down, I'll always think back of those times when I won stuff. When I won stuff with a bunch of group of young men and women who are adults now, who are my friends now. And yeah, it just puts a smile on my face all the time. And I always think about how to do things differently. So that was the first incident. And I only started walking properly again towards the end of my year 12. Unfortunately, by that time, it was too late. I couldn't do any sport, but it was okay. I did other things within sport and not within sport. And then 10 years later, when I got into Absolute Football, the TV show that I was doing with Astro, with Raymond and Chevy, and a guy called Zainal Abbas, who's now quite senior with the Sports Education Ministry, good guy as well, I was just walking in Heritage Row, when I went back with my friend Ratna I was going to drop her home, and I was going to have an early night. I think it was about midnight or something, because I was hosting the next day. So I was silkiasu, or I wanted to get good sleep.
Yeah.
So I went home early, and then unfortunately, where I parked, it was a great place to attack someone. No lights, bushy and everything. And then anyway, a couple of people came out, hit me on the head with a helmet. They attacked Ratna. I think they tried to rape Ratna. I think.
No,
yeah,
dude.
but I was unconscious. When Ratna rolled down the hill, she managed to get away. It was not a hill; it was like a knoll.
Okay.
Probably from this floor to where that lamp is, or from where you are right now. So she just rolled away. She went to get some help. Anyway, they came. I can't remember any of this, by the way. She came back to get me.
You were out cold.
I was out cold, but I got back to conscious. Anyway, got to hospital. I was in a coma. My parents were in China. They flew back, and that was the worst flight of their life, probably.
You were in a coma?
Yeah.
How long were you out, dude?
I think I was out for a couple of days. And,
Yikes.
It was scary times. So I got a steel pin in my head because my skull was loose. And I almost lost my job with Astro because I had a nasty scar on my head here.
You can't barely see it, man.
Well, no, man. If you touch it, there's a pin there, and it doesn't go off when you go through the metal detector. That was your next question. Everybody asked me that.
It's like you followed the bouncing ball. I was like,
after that, but Suraj, God bless him, he was my producer back then, and my director back then, and he managed to use some creative makeup to cover up the scar so I could keep my job. And yeah, I was really down for that whole year. I used to have shakes every time I went to the car park.
Like post-traumatic stress,
yeah,
you
I
know.
did. But I also went through something that is not, that the books doesn't show you so much.
Okay.
Is that I went through a period of self-pity.
Okay.
I
What do you mean?
I said, oh, why is life treating me that way? Or give me a break. I went through an accident. I didn't say that out publicly. Internally, I was here. I said it to my family. My family didn't deal with it very well. They were also going through some post-traumatic stress. And I kept saying to them, look, I went through the hurt. I said, oh, we hurt in other ways, which is true and not true to a certain degree. I remember having many fights with my mom and dad about it. They weren't, but I tried my best to sympathize with them, because seeing their son and on a bed like that, it's painful. I mean, you got 2 kids.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I think we'd be going crazy if that happened to our children. So, but anyway, time heals all wounds. It's really funny that Astro didn't renew my contract for whatever reason. They wanted to go in a different direction. I think back then they wanted a typical football show with many pretty girls who knew nothing about football, but that's just life. So, and it's really funny. I thought, okay, my TV career is done. BAT were very good, very supportive. They put me on a 4-day-a-week contract. I could use that 5th day to see a psychologist to get some help. And for me to see a psychologist, or for anybody to see a psychologist in our culture, is not easy. And it helped a lot. And they were very supportive. So God bless BAT. I'll always remember how supportive they were. A lady called Azian. Azian was very great. Fortunately, she left the company. A guy called Shide, I don't know if you remember him. So so they were very supportive, and they gave me the time to heal. So, but I was struggling with HR. For anybody who knows HR, it's not the easiest line of work to work with. I think HR people get given a lot of stick every day, which is not their fault, but sometimes it is their fault. But anyway, we won't talk about that. But as I was about to close the door on my TV life, Daphne Eiking called me and said, she was doing some producing as well. She said, come host for the breakfast show. Come for an audition with the breakfast show. I was like, okay. Again, they put me through the ringer. But I got the job, and I said, okay, I'm pretty good at this. And I didn't even try. So that lifted my confidence. But I had a lot of demons to battle with in terms of the depression that I went through. So these days when I help people and they say, how can you help us in mental health? Well, I've been depressed twice and I almost died once.
But how did you deal with it though?
It's a very good question. And I can't give you a straightforward answer. Had a lot of nightmares, shakes and everything. I reached out to someone, and this person helped me, a Malaysian Indian lady. I think she was Punjabi. Great lady. Unfortunately, she had to move to Australia because, ironically, she moved to Australia where I studied. She did say to me, sorry, Ben, I have to move. I'm getting married, and this profession is so hard to come by in Asia because people don't open up here. I said, fair enough, cari makan lah, feed the rice bowl. But, I got through it. Going out to nightclubs was not easy because my father and my mother would say, where are you going? I remember
the fear is already there.
The fear was there, so it wasn't easy going out. Even going out with friends, they were scared. I don't know how I got through it. I as cliche as it sounds, it was just one day at a time. But leaving HR was great. And I don't say that in a bad way, because a lot of my friends are in HR, and leaving HR was great because I think that was God's way of saying to me, you need to quit this line of work. And this accident is my way of giving it to you. I'm a relatively religious person, but I don't like to preach. So I think it was Allah's and God's way of telling me, look, I know this is not the most ideal way for you to exit the HR industry, but use this as an excuse to leave the HR industry, to recover and find your true passion. And at that time, I'm not sure if it's a true passion, but it was my true strength, which I never knew I had. And I pursued it and I ran with it, and I got pretty bloody good at it. So that was my healing, to get very, very good at it. And I think I shared this story with someone the other day. I'll just say this in conclusion. So someone did ask me, how did I get through it? And I remember I said, look, I never want to feel the way I didn't get my first contract renewed, because Astro called me back for other gigs. But I never want to feel that again. So what I did was, and because I had no mass comm training, was this, every night, I remember, because my mom's kitchen is here where I live, and then you go outside, there's a TV room inside. So what I used to go after dinner, I would go into the TV room and watch half an hour of BBC, half an hour of CNN, half an hour of ESPN, half an hour of E News Asia with Ryan Seacrest, and I used to wake up at 6 o'clock every morning to read 3 newspapers. So the newspapers would build up my content in terms of world news, and I would try to beat. I would try to mimic or better the presenters that was in front of me. For Fox or ESPN, it was Steve Dawson. For BBC, it was Gita Goramuthi. For CNN, it was Anthony Stevens and Rosemary Church. And for E! News, it was a girl called Ashlyn Gorse and also Ryan Seacrest. I found Ashlyn Gorse presenting very, very good, and Juliana Rancic. So
you emulated that?
Yes, no, I wrote down notes. What makes them a good presenter? And I tried to. So my TV presentation style is a hybrid of theirs, and it's really funny. I'll finish the story here. When I got to Fox, Steve Dawson came up to me and said, "Welcome to our family." I said, "Steve, I feel like I know you." I told this to Claire as well. I said, we got along like a house on fire that day, and he was my mentor at Fox. And before we started our working relationship, I said, "Steve, I want to say one thing to you." And I said, "What's that, mate?" I said, "Thank you." He said, "What do you mean, thank you?" I said, "Thank you for getting me here." He said, "I had nothing to do with your audition." I said, "Yes, you had nothing to do with my audition, but your style of presentation taught me about pausing, listening, and then talking. And you taught me indirectly that this job is about having a big pair of ears, not so much an engaging voice that can blast away the coughs."
Thank you.
Okay, so I said, "Thank you." And I said, "You don't have to thank me." I said, "Yes, I do." And he gave me a big hug. And he said to me, "This is going to be a bloody good relationship." And it was.
He was there from day one of the journey,
Absolutely. So he's a great guy, Steve. He's running his own training company now. Big shout out to Steve Dawson. And, great guy. So, yeah, how I got over it? By being kiasu to be the best I could be in this line of work. And those names that I mentioned, Dawson, Garamuthi, Church, Stevens, and also to a certain degree, Suhaimi Sulaiman. He taught me in a training session, it's all in the eyes. So
he's another legend.
Oh, he's a legend and a good guy as well. He's doing a good job. So yeah, so Jamie. So I tried to emulate my mentors, and by being me, I'm a workaholic.
Yeah, he is.
So like I would just so my mother. I remember my mom, because my mom's all about family. She would say to me, "Oh God, you're spending. I don't know what you're doing in that TV room, but you're not spending time with the family." I said, "Take it from me," and they used to criticize me when I was a TV presenter, a junior TV presenter. They said I was bad. So
well, you know how family can be.
Yeah. So and then I said I'm just learning how to. I'm watching TV not to watch TV. I'm actually watching TV to be a better presenter.
Yeah.
And those the nights that I didn't and I would record those shows every day. Because if I got back from work late, and instead of watching TV or having a good night, I'd have my dinner and I would go in the room for 3 hours and watch those shows every night.
Literally, you were deliberately practicing to hone your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And look where it got you.
Yeah,
buddy.
it did. Look where it got me. So my mom, I remember in 2010, she came up, and my dad, who you'll never get a praise from, came up to me and said, "You're really good now."
Wow, dude.
And then I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Are you guys drunk or something?
Taking the piss?
Because you guys don't drink." And then they're like, "No, you're good." And that taught me two things: that how factual my parents are, and all that hard work paid off. So that hard work. So things do as cliche as it sounds, Amil, things do happen for a reason. Yeah. If not, if those bumpy rides did not happen, maybe I wouldn't have become as successful as I was. So I always say to people, I got some sense knocked into me in that second accident. So there was some positives in it.
Okay, so before we go into the mental health part, so you've spent an illustrious career in sports media, about 15 years?
Sports media and business media, it was from 2005, full-time from 2005 to about 2017, 12 years full-time.
Okay.
Well, sorry, the first 6 years were part-time. I should have quit my day job and gone full-time. They kept asking me to, I remember in TV7, quit your day job, you can go very far with the MCing and TV. But I still like the fact that I had a stable paycheck. I'm a bit conservative. I was very conservative once upon a time. I didn't believe in the freelance culture. But once I left the corporate life, I've just been almost a glorified freelancer. For
opportunities just came knocking left, right, center.
So
right?
2005 to 2017.
So in that journey from 05 to 17, right? I would assume that there's been many highs and lows in the career. So maybe you could just bring me to one or two stories, like high points whilst working in the broadcast industry, and maybe one or two challenging moments and how you overcame those challenges.
The first one was quite easy. I mean, working for Astro Awani was great. That was a brilliant show. Entrepreneur, interviewing C-level, like what you're doing now, interviewing C-levels, finding out their rags to riches story. That was brilliant. I love that show, and everybody remembers me for that show rather than the Fox show, because Fox is very specialized. It's sports.
Yeah.
So if you didn't watch football or sports, you weren't really. But everybody connected to Entrepreneur because everybody wants to do their own thing and all of the above. So I had the best job in the house. And my network was phenomenal. I was networking with entrepreneurs, CEOs, politicians, all of the above. So even though working with Fox was a delight, but I worked with Fox under some very challenging times because we didn't have much budget, this, that, and the other. You wanted to be creative, but you couldn't because there wasn't enough manpower or budget. So,
and social media was creeping in as well.
Also, so the highlight of my life. Well, being selected for Fox, the most challenging one of the time, working with Fox under those conditions.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And my colleagues know this, but they're good people over there. I mean, they no longer work there because Fox closed down, but they're good people and they're doing something different now. Most of them are doing something different now. But it goes, and because I was so successful at Fox and Astro, when I came back, RTM offered me a lot of work.
Oh,
yeah.
So what did you do with RTM?
I was doing commentating and presenting, lifestyle shows, TV shows, and people said to me, Ben, you kerja dengan Fox and Astro, lepas tu you nak kerja RTM, that's a bit of a standard drop, bro. I said, excuse me, you never ever spit on the hand that feeds it.
Exactly.
You never push away people who believe in you. Okay, because the job is about a client having a belief in you. That's what the job is all about. So RTM gave me great work and they always paid on time. Yeah. So no, I mean, and that's what this is about. I mean, life is about, cari makan and feeding the rice bowl. So I still got to do what I want. And you know what? The viewership in RTM was probably better than most places I work because it's free to air TV.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think some people, they read into big brands a lot and all this and all that, but RTM were fantastic to work with. They were fantastic despite their government service image. They were fantastic to work with. People that were hardworking, humble, and just really pulled their socks up. They came up to me and said, Ben, we know nothing about sport. Can you guide us? Sure. And I remember when I was at RTM, I had a fight with a producer because he didn't execute what we planned. And on Monday, Sunday, RTM called me and said, Ben, can you come into the office tomorrow? I said, okay, sure. I thought they were gonna say to me, we never want to work with you again. They said, Ben, so sorry that we made all those mistakes and we didn't follow your plan. Can we work? He said, can you help us achieve the certain standard? And can you help us be our chief presenter for the Olympics? I'm just looking at them and said, what?
What happened yesterday?
I shouted at you, probably used some very nasty words, and you're offering me more work? Alhamdulillah, hallelujah, master stroke of flukeness, if I were to say.
No, but they're open for feedback, and they just as long as the end product is better,
And I just want to say one more thing about not being arrogant in this business. I mean, I've got a certain client. I won't say who they are because they'll be a bit embarrassed, but they call me all the time for an event, and they can't pay much because they're in the F&B industry, and F&B is a game of thin margins. So they've given me more money over the years when they call me back for an event, and then but I just said, look, what's your budget? They said this. I'll do it regardless of your budget. I shouldn't be saying this, but I am. And then they said, oh wow, we got you. And then I said, look, you gave me a chance when I was nobody.
Yeah.
And just because I'm a bit more established now, I'm not going to run away from you. So I will always work with people who are loyal to me.
Yeah, remember the people, because it's not a one-man journey, right? A lot of people were there in your journey to become who you are. And I like that. And it's the same with me as well.
I can see that.
Never forget the people who brought you through the journey.
So sorry if I gave you a long-winded answer again. But I mean, Fox, great, but it was tough. RTM, brilliant. Astro Awani, brilliant. And I would say, Astro 1 is the highlight of my career because that job taught me how to moderate.
What do you mean moderate?
Like, ask the questions, keep quiet, and take the content and use it use it that it's not about you, but it's about the show.
Yes.
And that's what this job is, listening. I have a lot of people coming up to me all the time. Oh, I want to be an MC. I was like, oh, get a real job. So I was like, well, get a job that's more sustainable. You know, and then they said, okay, great. I said, why do you want this job? I said, I love to talk. I was like, this job's about listening and
That's
respecting. I remember my favorite TV show was this. It's a Canadian police TV show. It's called Flashpoint. The tagline of the SWAT officers of that show was connect, protect, respect. And I thought that was very fitting of how I approach my TV career. Because when I'm on air, I connect with the audience. I protect my presence, and I'll respect the guest that's always in front of me.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I aspire to get to. Hopefully, as I progress episode through episode, and and as you can see, I enjoy doing this. Right?
You're great at it.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I mean, coming from you, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't give praise easily.
Just like your dad.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of people out there have always said, if you get a compliment from Ben Ibrahim, you're on the right track.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, I wanna delve a little bit deeper on this mental health coaching, right? Because that's interesting. I mean, you just mentioned it. We come in a society where seeing a psychologist might be frowned upon a little bit, but here you are doing a business where you're talking to sports people, trying to get their mental health in check. So talk us through that a little bit. Like, what do you do in mental health coaching?
That's a good question. And a lot of people, and I probably say this about 10,000 times a day, because a lot of people say, mental health, and most people mental toughness. So when I get selected by or recruited by whoever to join the team, it's usually the head coach who recruits me.
Okay.
And you're supporting the head coach. So I remember when you walk into, like, when they say I'm recruiting Ben Ibrahim, who's going to work with our mental toughness side of things, they all get scared. The athletes, that is, because they think I'm going to go in there, I'm going to tick who's not tough, or who can't take the pressure, and who can. And I'm going to recommend to the coach, okay, these guys are tough, and these guys need a lot of work in that department. But I said, no, I always say to athletes, mental toughness is about identifying what stresses you out.
Okay.
And in terms of athletes' case, it could be the nerves, or it is the nerves. It's the crowd at the stadium. It's the fact that they're up against a Western team, because they're always playing against local teams. They're the best team in their kampong, but when it comes to being the best team in the world,
I get that.
They don't have that confidence. They don't have that world-class mentality. They fear when they hear the US national anthem, the Argentinian national anthem, the Korean national anthem, the Japan national anthem, and so forth and so forth. And they start crying, they start going crazy. The lights, the bright lights, everything, and they just choke. And instead of putting on a good performance like they did in training during the week, they put on not the greatest performance, and they usually end up losing. And then they'll start blaming each other and everything like that. And I just say, look, you guys all ran away from me, and I don't blame you, because you haven't been brought up with this, especially in our culture. But I'm not here to ascertain whether you're crazy or not. I'm just here to. Everybody has their stress points.
Okay.
So identify the stress points, and what do we do to mitigate the stress points?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Any examples?
Yeah, like, for example, like, just athletes getting nervous and they lose breath. They get overwhelmed by the opponent because the opponent is doing, playing well. I'll use a football term or basketball term. They're making good passes, making good shots, scoring a lot of goals, and they don't have that resilience to say, okay, I'm 2-0 down, but there's still 65 minutes to be played. There's still plenty of time to score 3 goals and win the game. But they don't have that mentality. They don't have that. So what I work with them is like, okay, next play mentality. Okay, the first 20 minutes were garbage. Put that away. Let's focus on just getting goal one. How do we get goal one? Okay, all right, let's play simple footballs, normal passes. And this language that I'm speaking about, normal passes, it's not my language, it's the language of the coaches. So a person like me must always work well with the head coach first and the assistant coaches.
Got it.
You can't just work with the head coach first and don't work well with the assistants. It's like working well with the CEO but not working well with the subordinates.
You got to be cohesive so that they understand what you're saying, right?
So I work with them. Okay, what are we focusing on? Okay, we're focusing on just one touch passes or building from the back and then getting it out to the best player and finishing. get it goal 2-1. Okay, once it's 2-1, great. The opponent gets scared. Let's go 2-2. Okay, go 2-2, and then after that, go for the win 3-2. And I hate to say this, but what I work with them, I can't explain it in great detail.
Okay.
But I work with the athletes in terms of building their ego. So like I come in the room. The first thing I always say, especially with the Malay athletes, I said, okay, what's your impian? What's your dream? They just go, play football, play basketball. And I said, no. What do you want to be? Do you want to be Lionel Messi? Do you want to be Mia Hamm, women's football? Do you want to be Beck Allen for Australian basketball? Do you want to be Michelle Platini? Whatever. You know. I said, and they said, tak boleh lah. I said, why not? We're human. We got heart, 2 arms, and legs. I wanted to be the best TV presenter in the world, and arguably I am. Okay, so I had that belief, but where does it start? It starts with dreaming big, doing the work, and then dreaming big again, and always evaluating yourself. So I said that's what I work on. I said, okay, you want to be Lionel Messi, okay, you want to be Fandi Ahmad or whatever. I said, okay, put down the attributes that Fandi Ahmad does well, football wise, or Lionel Messi does well, football wise and non-football wise. Okay, I want you every day to emulate those goals. So, and then they'll say, oh, okay. And they said, no, and believe that you can be the best in the world. Believe that you can win an Olympic gold medal. Believe that you can win a World Cup. Believe that you can play overseas. And one thing that I did with them, with certain teams that I deal with, I said, we designed a towel. Put it on a towel. So every day when they mandi, they would wipe those dreams and goals off on them. So they'll always be reminded, that's the goal, that's the dream. And I'll give you another story. I worked with a tennis client recently. And they were young kids. I mean, and this is the best age to implement this mental toughness, mental belief with them, and this winning mentality that I created. And I remember when I first gave the presentation, they were like, how does that work? So, and then I gave them the introduction. And the second training, I said, look, guys, I'm not going to do another presentation. I gave them all a piece of paper. I said, I want you to write down what you improved today and what you want to improve tomorrow. We call it the 1%ers. Okay? So I said, like, this works in business, this works in sport, and this works in life. A lot of successful CEOs are never satisfied. They want more. They want their company to profit more. They want their company to grow more. Even though they get $10 million sales, they'll want 20. They'll want 30. Yeah. So how do they get there the next day? By doing these 1%ers. So this sort of fell on a little bit of deaf ears with these kids that I worked with, but because it was a group. But then this one Bruneian girl, when we did a tournament, and then she said, she was like, oh God, she was losing. And then she said, I'm going to work on my 1%er. And during the whole match, she just worked on that 1%er that she's trying to improve. And that technical adjustment won her the match. And I have it on proof. She said, she came up to me and gave me a big hug and said, look, Ben, I worked on my mental toughness. And I said to her, dear, you don't have to take the mick out of me or the piss out of me. If you don't believe in it, just say so, and I'm okay with that. Not everybody believes in my teaching. She said, no, Ben, I'm telling you the truth. I won that game because of those 1%ers that you reinforced in us. I said, look, can I get that on video? So I can show the next client on how I worked with them. And so I do make an impact, because one thing that I don't mean to disrespect certain professions, but some people who work with the psychologists who work with the athletes on this side, they give them a lot of theoreticals. But because I come from coaching background, I give them tangible examples. So always when I always tell people, if you want to change something, keep it tangible. They can see it, they can touch it, they can feel it, they can smell it. So exactly the same in mental toughness or mental health. It's like that.
No, I
does that make sense?
No, it does, because we're talking about the 1%, right? I mean, I'm a musician, and it's the same thing as well. To expect me to be a Joe Satriani or a Steve Vai, there has to be steps for you to get there, and it's about improving your skills incrementally, deliberate practice.
100%.
And that's what I believe in. So as long as I'm better today than I was yesterday, bro, I did something. Get those gradual incremental improvements there, and if you have it, some percent is talent, but a lot of it is hard work. That's what I believe. Yes. I get that.
Hard work beats talent.
Yeah,
it does. I'm proof of that.
I agree. I agree 100%. Hard work beats talent. Talent gets the door open, right? But if you want to go all the way through, you need hard work. 100%. So here you are, buddy. I mean, we've spoken about the sports media stuff. We've spoken about the mental health coaching stuff. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Ben is doing right now. You've got this thing called Great People TV.
Right.
Yeah? Let's talk a little bit about that.
No, it's a good question. And during the pandemic, my visibility went down really badly. So I wasn't hosting a TV show. I wasn't commentating. I wasn't emceeing. So and people forget. People forget. So, and God bless my family. They pushed me to this.
Okay.
And I remember that was this, we were gonna come up with coming up with a podcast interviewing successful people with my contacts and everything. So the goal of Great People TV was to interview successful people and not talk about their gossip life, but talk about what they did well. Those 1%ers.
Yep. Get it.
Okay. And during the pandemic, people needed positive content rather than trashy content. Even though the trashy content gets a lot of viewership, but people need positive content.
Yeah, to be inspired.
Yeah, exactly. And we were all down during the pandemic. So I started. I had this idea of a channel. My wife said, Sophie, God bless her, she said she'd help me. She's very good at the tech stuff. She's brilliant. You know, and was this? So I would get the guest. I would do the hosting, but she would do all these, because all these camera work and everything is a lot of hard work.
It's not easy.
Yeah, and you need this acumen, the technical acumen, and Sophie's brilliant at it. Even though she's self-taught, she's brilliant at it. I'm not saying that because she's my wife. She's really good at it. So she did that, and we went through on a journey together. And I remember we went for a swim, just as a family.
Okay.
We just went for a swim at I think it was just having a swim. And then this was again during the pandemic. Private closed doors. Went for a swim at my parents' house, and then was this like it was 9 o'clock at night. Dark. But it was a nice hot day. And we were all swimming. Kyla, my son Kyla, and then I said, and then like we're all swimming, just mucking around, laughing. And then they said, "What are you gonna call your TV show, Dada?" Oh, I think I'll call it Best People TV. Because Malaysians like the word best in it. Sophie said, "I'm not quite convinced about that name. It's something. There's something that." And I was quite keen to call it Ben Ibrahim TV for branding purposes. I would have solidified my brand. But then Sophie said, but what happens if someone wants to take it over, or we want to sell it one day? There would be a lot of complications there, and you might get kicked out of your own TV channel. Because I was looking for investors as well. I said okay, and then like Kyla is very blunt like me. She said, Dada, you're gonna be interviewing great people, right? She goes, yeah, just call it Great People TV. And we all turned around to that.
Wow.
And said, holy S. And that's how Great People TV started. And ironically, our first episode was the 6th Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak. I thought that's Sri Najib Razak. And I know a lot of people always remember him of 1MDB, this, that, and the other. But actually, truth aside, and he is a good Prime Minister who did some pretty good things for the country. And he loves sport. He gave sports a lot of good budget. And because of that, the country succeeded well. So, and when I approached him and his people to get the interview, he said no problem. And if you look at the interview, was this the opening scene is me knocking on his door, and me saying, hey, we're gonna come in and talk about leadership. That part was obviously acted out, but after that, usually if you speak to a prime minister, they'll say interview, and then he goes off. But he just turned around to me and said, is there anything else you need? And then he said to me, don't forget, Ben, I like you because you emceed some of the events that, some of the big entrepreneur events that I put together over the years. I said, oh, you remember that? He goes, yeah, I do. I said, oh, wow, this guy's a really nice guy. So I said, Dr. Sri, can you do this? I'm just going to open the door. It's a bit of an acting scene, but it looks cool on TV. He goes, sure, no problem. And we watched it about 5-6 times. But he was great. Dr. Sri Najib is a very, very nice guy. So say what you want about the Bosco. I won't remember him for that.
Yeah.
I'll remember him for the great things that he did for sport in Malaysia, the good things he did for our economy, because all the Ministry of Finance events that I emceed were his brainchild. So I never went hungry under Dr. Sri Najib Razak. I went hungry on the other governments.
No, that makes sense.
A fact.
That's fair, and
I'm not criticizing this, that, and the other. It's just what it was. So whenever people tell me, "Oh, Najib is this, Najib is that," I said, was there jobs?
Yeah.
Najib created jobs.
Yeah, and he had a positive impact to you specifically.
I'm biased. I am quite biased because I got to know him really, really well in the interview, on the camera and off the camera, and that's what the essence of Great People TV is. So after that, I interviewed Tun Mahathir, I interviewed other politicians, the CEO of Post Malaysia. It was very good. So Great People TV was about weekly inspirational content like Entrepreneur. The motivation did come from
Yep,
Entrepreneur,
yep.
and the inspiration did come from Entrepreneur, but in a very podcast TV way. But we did it for almost 2.5 years, and we did it for 2.5 years, and I wanted to quit all the time because it was hard work, and I wasn't getting paid for it, but I was getting some certain sponsors here and there, but I wasn't able to monetize it because I was focusing on the jobs that paid money. But a lot of people were looking at this is great content, you got Najib, you got Mahathir, you got these CEOs, you got these actors, not just from Malaysia but for overseas as well, and I've got to tell you,
William Hung.
yeah, we got William Hung, and I've got to tell you, guess what my first rejection was?
Who?
Michael Bublé.
No.
Yeah, I'm serious. I remember, and when people say, when I tell that story to people, you wrote to Michael Bublé? I said, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And then I said, this journalism is about asking people, and if they say no, that's not the worst thing in the world. So I remember I wrote to Michael Bublé, and I have the Facebook emails to prove it. I wrote to Michael Bublé, so there's people who answered it. He said, sorry, we don't do TV. I said, we don't do podcasts, we just do TV. And that was their way of saying, you got to pay us to be on the show.
Got it.
So then I just said to them, look, let me work a bit harder to make this popular, and then I'll come back at you. And then they said, no problem. So when people say, they laugh at me, Michael Bublé was my first rejection. But I said, he replied.
Yeah.
Or his people replied.
Yeah.
And it was a good conversation. So that gave me the motivation that I could create something in this bubble, no pun intended. And that's what Great People TV is all about. So we stopped Great People TV, Sophie and I, because it's a bit too much for us. Well, because we're both working full time. I mean, full time as can be. I'm a full time consultant now. So what I plan to do with Great People to take it to the next level is to do the mental toughness training.
Okay.
The mental health clinics online, and also some public speaking training, and also some because every client that I've served gave me 150 out of 100. So that gave me the confidence that I can amplify it online, and since there's already a following there, really reach out to it to see it. Instead of being an inspirational tool, it can be more of a helping and guiding tool to develop people better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that. So it's not just about content. It's not just about, giving those inspirational stories. So this is what the future of Great People TV is going to look like. Yeah. A training platform.
To be great.
To be better. To be better.
Yeah.
Right? No, I get that, dude. I mean, Ben, thank you so much. I mean, I've learned so much today. I mean, not just about what people know you for, the sports media stuff, but more importantly, the mental health coaching bit. I didn't know that you went through.
Not many people do, and it's not something that you trump on Instagram from here to kingdom come. But I do tell this story.
Yeah, thanks,
whenever I ever tell this story, people are like, you went through that. I said, I did.
I did not know, bro.
Yeah.
You literally couldn't walk for 2 years at such a young age, right?
I think when you joined BAT, I got into my accident. I think you knew a little bit about it, but I wasn't really reaching out to many people. People visited and everything, and they were great. But it was a different time back then. There was no such thing as Instagram or Twitter or this, that, and the other. This was 2005, mind you, a long time ago. But I mean, the memories of that accident are still strong. And it has made me a better person, or made me a stronger person, a tougher person, a more resilient person. And the reason I tell it so openly with pride, if there's such a word description for that, is that I don't ever want people to feel that way about themselves, like what I did. So my next project, I don't know if I should be saying this on air, but I will. My next project is to write a book about it.
Okay.
And the book is not about me. It's about what I went through and how those scars that I went through will help other people heal their scars that they're going through. Because I mean, I'm sure you know, the pandemic did not just teach us about this, that, and the other, and didn't teach us about Zoom, but the pandemic taught us that, look, if your mental health is, you got to look after your mental health.
I agree.
You really, really got to look after it. And if you don't address it and do something about it, and please don't. But please, I'm just gonna say this out. I know people. This is probably the HRian in me. Please don't take advantage of people. Please don't take advantage to your boss and say, I've got a mental health issue.
Yeah, let's do it right.
Yeah, do it right. Do it properly. Say, look, if you're feeling down, just be honest about it. Don't say I'm having a mental health issue, because a mental health issue is massive.
Yeah.
It's massive. Don't forget depression. It's actually about, you can't sleep, you're crying, you need antidepressants, this, that, and the other. I've been through it twice. So when someone jokes about depression, I get pretty pissed off and angry. Yeah. I said, don't disrespect that.
Yeah.
because it is a massive, massive thing.
Acknowledge it. I mean, typical Asian parenting, right? Like, it's just, let's just wipe that under the carpet. It's nothing to look about. Just feel better. Be more
But
positive.
saying that, I just do want to say there are some parents who are Western who still live in 1942.
The same thing.
And they think, that's nothing. And I've worked, just to tell you, I worked with some world-class coaches, Olympic gold medal and everything. They didn't have an open mindset to these sort of things. They didn't.
But the world is changing though today, Ben. Like I think people are speaking about mental health a lot more openly.
Oh, yes, they are.
A lot of organizations are giving you a mental health off day if you need to. They are taking it seriously. Like even when my last year in BAT, they actually worked with this organization that does I can't remember for the life of me, but they do like online. You can speak to a psychiatrist online. Counselor, a counselor, right?
A lot of organizations have adopted that.
Naluri, that's what they were called. Yeah,
a lot of organizations have adopted that, and I mean, Americans are quite good at signposting these things, whether they are followed through or not. Well, at the end of the day, it's up to the individual to come forward. I have a problem. Can you help me? Because with the pandemic and everything, a lot of people are still stuck in a hole in the sense that, I don't want to admit that I have a problem because I want to keep my job. So I mean, this is something that I urge all leaders to do as an advisor, as a consultant in this area. I said, please, I mean, even CEOs are getting burnt out.
Acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it. Have some sympathy. You don't have to be Mr. Tough Love Macho all the time, or you don't have to be it at all. Everybody's human.
Hey, thanks, man, Ben. Today has been a good day. Like, I just feel inspired, right? Like, for me, number one, what I like was your story about how you honed your craft. Every single day, 3 hours of TV, reading the newspaper, you honed your craft day after day after day. It's all about that 1%. The slight incremental improvement of yourself will lead you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But you got to put in the work, right?
Absolutely.
And hard work is better than talent, right?
That's right. I mean, hard work makes the dream work. So what's the dream? To be the best in your craft. So I mean, I always tell that to when young people always ask me for some advice and everything, and I don't like to give advice because it makes me sound old. And I already got some white hair.
Can see. The
silver fox, But I always tell people, I said, look, the purpose. I mean, it's really funny that I was Forrest Gump for 2 years, and I don't know if you remember that movie, Sally Field, the person who played Forrest's mother. She said, Forrest went, "Mama, what's the meaning of life?" In that accent, that southern accent. And then she goes, "Oh, Forrest, I can't tell you that. You gotta figure that out by yourself." And then, but she said, "Forrest, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get." But I always say to people, life is a box of chocolates. You do not know what you're gonna get, but you can choose the chocolates that you want in your life.
Exactly.
So choose those chocolates and eat it, taste it. And yes, the feeling might be sweet, the feeling might be crunchy, the feeling might be a bit bitter, a bit expired. But whatever the taste, just keep going.
All right. Thanks, buddy. All right, buddy. So in closing, right, if anyone out there wants to connect with you, if they want to know a little bit more about you, about Great People TV, or if they want to talk to you a little bit about mental health coaching as well,
sure.
How can people connect with you?
Very simple. They can go to my Instagram.
Okay.
I am more of an Instagram and LinkedIn person because that's where my clients usually, I pick up my clients, especially LinkedIn. So you can just go to my LinkedIn, Ben Ibrahim, drop me a line. If you look, even if though we've never met, which camera, sorry, am I looking at? This one? Yeah. Even though we've never met, just drop me a line on my LinkedIn. I'll respond straight away. I'm quite good at replying messages. I'm very open. I'll send you my phone number. You can talk to me in the next 10 minutes. I've had a lot of people do it that way. Instagram is pretty good as well. Yes, I don't have a massive following, but it's a decent following. But, I will always look at all my messages. Okay, you want to connect? I'll give you my phone number. We can connect. And I mean, I'm very much what you see is what you get. There's no airness with me. So just give me a call. We'll have that conversation. And if I can help you, I can help you. So yeah, I think Instagram and LinkedIn is the right place to start the conversation. We'll graduate to WhatsApp. And then hopefully it'll graduate to face-to-face. And hopefully it'll graduate to some stuff that we can do to help for my skills and strengths to help them.
Yeah, pizzas and burgers will help as well. I'll help grease the conversation. But I tell you what, Ben, thank you so much for being here today. I truly appreciate it. I mean,
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been such a good conversation. So yeah, guys, here's another episode of Find the Real. Hope you guys enjoyed it and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.